for this.
Game's over.
The tagline for our next film, I believe, says it all, reading, "May the best man live." Hello to everyone watching. For RealScreenReviews.com, I am movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and our next movie review is The Killer Elite. This actioneer opened in semi-wide release on Friday, September 23rd, 2011, and it stars heavy hitters Jason Statham, one of my favorite actors, Clive Owen, Dominic Purcell, and the legendary Robert DeNiro. Killer Elite comes to us from first-time feature director Gary McKendry, the previous director of the short film Everything in This Country Must. He now tackles a period piece set in the 1980s and filled it to the hilt with action and thrills. Our tale tells of a man named Hunter that is a mentor in the field of the Special Forces units and puts the story in motion when he is kidnapped. He is basically being held to blackmail Danny Bryce, played by Jason Statham, to come out of retirement in order to save his confidant. Danny must successfully pull off 4 terminations spanning the globe, all the while still being able to keep his cool enough to survive the ordeal himself. From Australia to the Middle East, with stops in Paris and London, Danny's objective is to take out a master assassin in each of the world's locations and completing the job by rubbing out the cunning leader of these gentlemen. Well, people, the filmmakers of The Killer Elite knew exactly what kind of movie that they wanted to make and made exactly that film. This is an action film through and through, an above average one at that, and never does it try to be anything else. The movie is above average, beginning with that it has a good story to tell you, and it goes out of its way to not waste your time. Now, there are no love interests in this film either. Statham's Danny Bryce does have a girlfriend, but she is just an ornament in place for no other reason to show that he can be gotten to. Next, the 2 leads are great and couldn't be more evenly matched. Jason Statham is one of everyone's favorite actors, and there's a good reason for that. He's pretty enough for the ladies, and yet he kicks enough ass and breaks enough bones for every guy to consider him the definition of a man's man. Then, as I said before, Clive Owen is an amazing actor, and to call him an action star would be the biggest insult to a guy that there's so much more to than just that. Owen just has this presence about him and a voice to go right along with it, and every time I see him in front of the camera, I can only ask myself just one question. That is, why is this man not playing the part of James Bond? Then these 2 guys square off in a hand-to-hand fight sequence that is the best I've seen since Rowdy Roddy Piper went head-to-head with Keith David in John Carpenter's They Live 23 years ago. Then I love how the movie intentionally makes Statham out to be a real person and not a superhero. He gets hurt. He's not Superman or Batman. And there are times when Clive Owen's spite gets the better of him. Then I thought the best aspect of The Killer Elite was how the writer so eloquently gives us a role reversal. Statham is technically a bad guy or a villain, but he is without question the film's protagonist, and you root for him from start to finish. Then the flip side is seeing us root against Clive Owen as the project's antagonist, but he couldn't be more the good guy of the 2 characters. Then Bobby DeNiro shows up in a small but effective role. I mean, I don't know what you can say. He's Robert De Niro, and every time he speaks, he makes the line meaningful and memorable. Now, I must also tip my hat to Dominic Purcell, who shows up in a very credible performance once again. After leaving TV's Prison Break, he is carving out quite a film career for himself. With this movie, Straw Dogs, and 3 other films in production, he is proving himself as quite a talent and not just muscles in a tight shirt. With his lamb chop sideburns and dated clothes, he was almost unrecognizable, and this brings me to the entire retro feel of the film that completely added to its entertainment and authenticity. I love the 80s cars, I love the 80s clothes, and I especially love the 80s music throughout the movie. Killer Elite also spans the globe and changes locations throughout the film more frequently than you would think, and by doing this, it keeps the film fresh for the viewer. From the barren desert of the Middle East to downtown England and Paris, and all the way to the outback of Australia, the backdrop of the film is never boring to watch. Then director Gary McKendry makes very good use of the camera, and writer Matt Shearing gives us more than enough of a smart story filled with some very credible plot twists. Now the shout out for this video goes out to a very nice kid named Matt and his YouTube channel entitled King of the Tyrants. That's one word once again. If you are looking for reviews on any type of rock or heavy metal music, then do yourself a favor and check out the channel King of the Tyrants. Matt has a tremendous amount of knowledge and insight for someone as young as he is, and you could do a lot worse than to give him a look-see. Now, at 1 hour and 45 minutes, I would classify The Killer Elite as a thinking man's action movie. It has bullets, bombs, and blood, but it's surrounded by a very tight script and above-average acting all the way through. I really have no complaints about the movie because it succeeds where it attempts, but in the end it's just an action movie, and that being said, places it below perfect. Still, high action and great thrills lets me gladly give Killer Elite a very solid 3 stars out of 4, and remember people, I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies, and thank you for your attention.
What are you doing?
Let me get my watch back.
Should have stayed away.
The gloves are off. This ends today.